This is the Aftermarket Radio Network. Hi, Carm Capriato, the Automotive Aftermarket Podcast Guy, and welcome to the 637th episode of Remarkable Results Radio. My guest today is Donny Seyfer, Executive Officer of NASTF, and Donny's got an important update for shop owners, technicians, and mobile diagnosticians. But before we get started, let me share with you all about NASTF. The National Automotive Service Task Force, NASTF, is a non-for-profit organization established in 2000 to facilitate the identification and correction of gaps in the availability and accessibility of automotive service information, service training, diagnostic tools and equipment, and communications. NASTF helps to ensure an equal playing field for all automotive service professionals. NASTF is a cooperative effort among the automotive service industry, the equipment and tool industry, and automobile manufacturers, the OEMs. There's no cost to participate in NASTF, which is open to professional auto service technicians, shop owners, service writers, OEMs, service employees, or any other automotive industry professional. Since 2006, NASTF manages the Vehicle Security Professional Registry, which credentials automotive professionals to access and utilize vehicle security information when it is needed in a repair or to produce replacement keys transponders. There are currently about 5,500 registered vehicle security professionals across the U.S. and Puerto Rico. In this episode, we dive into NASTF's soft launch of the Assisted Immobilizer reprogramming service that offers secure repairs when a vehicle's security system is involved. Cybersecurity risks are always a top concern, and NASTF has collaborated with automakers to close that gap and offer a service to help shop owners, technicians, and car owners. Hey, thanks to NAPA for sponsoring this episode. Now, together, we can fix the technician shortage by investing now in an apprentice. Let NAPA help you start now to grow your own and build your bench. Our future technicians can come from our concentrated efforts with apprentices. Contact your NAPA representative and learn more, or log into member.napaautocare.com and get started. Hey, the key talking points for this episode reside at remarkableresults.biz/E637. Hey, don't forget to like, follow, and share us on social media. Let's spread the word on important information and continue to rise together. Hey, a warm welcome to Donny Seyfer, Executive Officer, National Automotive Service Task Force. I think we all know that as NASTF. Hi, Donny.
Hey, how you doing, Carm? Great to be with you today.
Thanks for coming on. A lot of discussion about NASTF recently. What's NASTF's answer to all this crazy technology that you've been working on for so long? And by the way, thanks for all that you're doing for us. But what's new and what's coming up? What's controversial? What's going on with cybersecurity? I got so many thoughts. The OE's concerned about their software. We're going to have a great episode.
I'm looking forward to it.
What are you doing about all this accelerating technology, and how are you trying to tighten it up and actually it's not only tightening it up so that the OEs respect that, but also to open it up for us?
What's happening is we're getting a lot of assistance from automakers in doing things that, frankly, they've never done before. A lot of the reason for that is that when the board of NASTF took over running SDRM in 2018, we changed the operational strategy a lot. We basically said, here's the terms and conditions we've had all this time, and now you're going to actually have to adhere to them. And so what's happened is we've been able to make things really tight, really secure, prove it to the automakers, and now they're coming to us and saying, hey, could we do this through NASTF? Could we do that through NASTF? We're creating a methodology here by which an individual technician can say, I'm a good guy and I'm here to work on cars and repair them. I'm not here to steal them. I'm not here to break them. And that makes it so that automakers are more comfortable about some of the things coming down the road that we're going to need access to repair cars, period. And so by doing that, we're bringing some new programs out, and one's out now and we're piloting it, but we've got a couple more coming in behind them that really give technicians access to things they haven't had before. And so that to me is very exciting. And the automakers that are playing in this space, straight up, they just want to do the right thing. They want to get cars repaired. They consider, as we do at NASTF, that the owner of that vehicle is our mutual customer. If that car doesn't get repaired right, they're not going to want to go back to that brand again. And some brands have learned that the hard way. So other brands that have really done a stellar job, General Motors, Toyota, Ford, of making stuff available, have really benefited from that. And in fact, we're seeing the Korean automakers also, who were kind of outliers for a while, but are really now bringing things to the table. Look at their sales. I mean, obviously they're building much better cars, but also look at their sales. They can be repaired by the aftermarket.
So most repair shops don't have IT people, so I'm sure the OEs are a little afraid of that there could be kind of a loose cannon out there. And since we don't have licensing, which they would probably love if we had that so that we could identify the people working on these cars, is that what this whole cybersecurity piece, and again, I want to go back. I know I just asked, a couple of crazy questions, but you said an acronym before, SDRM, and I want to stop for a moment. And anyone who's listening who doesn't know what SDRM is, it stands for Secure Data Release Model. Can you just do a little bit on that? Give me a minute on that.
Back in 2006, the automakers and NASTF's vehicle security team, which was a brand new team at the time, came up with this idea that immobilizer reprogramming. So this would be modules, powertrain control module goes down on a vehicle. Oftentimes, in fact, now most of the time, you have to be able to reinitialize that immobilizer in that vehicle when you replace that. Automakers said, we got to figure out how we can make that possible, but it has to be secure. And so the idea of a secure data release model is not unique to NASTF. It exists in other places. It's just we kind of have one of the more visible ones, if you will, because it's available to the aftermarket side of the repair industry. So what it is, in essence, is as a vetted, credentialed member of NASTF's secure data release model or locksmith registry, you are able to get access to the immobilizer, PIN codes, radio codes in some cases, and key codes for the vehicles that you're working on when those are needed in the course of repair. So interestingly enough, though, SDRM didn't include keys to start with. There was a law in California that came to the fore right about the same time that this was being done, when it was supposed to be just a mobilizer. And at that time, the decision was made, we've got to add the keys on as well. So that's how actually the locksmith piece of this came to begin with. And then ALOA, which is locksmith organization here in the United States, they came to the table and assisted with it, and in fact managed SDRM for a number of years.
The OEs want us to play nice, but they also want to secure it.
And they have to. I mean, if you think about what can happen if somebody has the ability to make a key for a car or to reinitialize a computer so that they could change the security settings on it, there are some real threats to the customer's vehicle's safety. The car could be stolen. The car can be used, and this has actually happened, the car can be used in thefts. They go out, they make a key, they take the car, they use it for a bank robbery, they're using it to move immigrants across the border illegally, and then they return the car and the customer never knows their car was used for that.
Are you hearing firsthand knowledge from the OEs that this kind of graft or corruption stuff is going on?
Well, this isn't coming from the OEs. This actually comes from NASTF's connections because we monitor this type of action. And the gentleman that runs the registry for us actually came from Department of Homeland Security's Intellectual Property Division. He ran it for many years. So NASTF actually works collaboratively with law enforcement We work with Customs and Border Patrol. We don't really have to do much with TSA, but we get all of this feedback. We work with local police, state police. I've even had to work with the Canadian Mounties on a situation once. So, but in working with them, they will come to us and say, we've got this problem going on. We think we'd like to have this piece of information. And so, we will share what we can. We have to be very careful with PII as related to both the customers of our vehicle security professionals and our vehicle security professionals themselves. But when you become credentialed, you say, I'm a good guy. I'm going to help law enforcement if I need to. So that's just part of the game.
Is the vetting process difficult?
Actually, it's not difficult. Where people have the biggest challenge, there's 4 or 5 documents you need depending on which where you live and what you need. Where people have the biggest trouble is with their insurance. There's 50 different states. Actually, we've got 51 different places, 52 if you count DC, that we credential in. And so they've all got slightly different procedures. And so a lot of folks, our requirements are that to be in the program, you have commercial general liability. And we get everything around it and all kinds of things that are not actually the right insurance. And so that frustrates a lot of folks because there's a big difference between a garage owner add-on policy and true commercial general liability. And so that causes some frustration. But also, because of the way that lawsuits work, we require that VSPs add us onto their insurance policy, NASTF, as an additional insured, which also then insures the automaker against where they go, because they're going to go for the deepest pockets, and it's not the VSP or NASTF, right? So that's why the insurance is a big problem. And then we have a lot of confusion around the locksmith license in the states where it exists, because some of those rules are really old, and they were made when doors on houses had locks and cars had locks, but they had no ideas about security systems, and they haven't been updated since.
Wow, I can imagine. Just in order to become a vehicle security professional, can I as an individual technician do this without worrying about the insurance issue?
No, the technicians have to be covered by insurance, and they have to. There has to be a business involved. Individuals cannot be in the registry because part of our agreement with the with the OEs. And keep in mind, this is a voluntary program. They do it voluntarily. Part of our agreement is that we will only put legitimate automotive businesses in this program.
I'm sure the industry would want to say, well, that's great. So we can't, no do-it-yourselfers are going to be able to come in there. I mean, the OEs don't want anyone who isn't legitimate, who can't stand behind their work and isn't hiring talent.
It's a great point, but there just are crazy things that happen. Even as it goes right now, we'll have a situation where a ex-spouse will socially engineer a vehicle security professional into making a key for their ex-spouse's vehicle, then steal it and hide it. And guess who gets the phone call on that? Me. Because law enforcement is saying, hey, one of your guys helped facilitate stealing a car. I'm like, oh, come on, really? And then you find out what the deal is. Well, they showed up with technically the right documentation, but that couple had not bothered to get all their stuff updated, and our VSP got thrown under the bus in the process. So, if that happens in a normal environment, imagine what would happen if we had just anybody who doesn't have adequate insurance, who doesn't have any licensing for, if they've got a locksmith, or whom we can't really track who they are. We just can't do it. They have to be in business.
So the dealers don't want to police this, which is why they came to you.
Yeah, the problem with doing it through the dealer body was that the dealers don't have the facility to manage this. Plus, they're direct competitors. So, putting the fox in charge of the hen house didn't seem like the way to go. And we've got that in-between relationship. We work with the automakers. We are part of the aftermarket. So we have that middle relationship where we can be unbiased, and we are unbiased. We put every VSP, regardless of where they live or who they are, through the same requirements that the others have. There's 5,300 of them in the program right now, and every single one of them has been vetted the same way.
Are dealership technicians through the same program, or do they go another place?
The answer is yes to both. Many dealership technicians, particularly if they work on used cars at their place, are in the registry, because they'll set up so that they can have access to other automakers' information. But then also, if the dealer is working on their brand, each manufacturer has a specific set of rules that are required. So if you're a Toyota technician working in a Toyota dealership, you have to gather the same information that one of our VSPs does to make a key or do that immobilizer work. Now, they've got a little advantage on the repair side because they've already got the car and the customer and all that in their system, so they can just electronically pass it. Our guys typically have to fill out a form, but we're even working on ways to streamline that even more than it is already.
What kind of feedback have you been getting with the launch of this?
So the new program that we launched, which we call Assisted Immobilizer Reprogramming, that is something that we've never had before. And here's the sort of 30,000 foot view of the why. There's roughly 250,000 shops in this country. Our team sat down and started to put their heads together. We figure there's about 750 mobile diagnosticians. Some are locksmiths, some are mobile diagnosticians specifically, and remote reprogramming individuals in the whole country to serve all 250,000 of those. We then figure maybe 10 to very liberally 25% of repair shops have somebody with the IT capabilities and the tools in-house to do all the cars they work on when they get into these types of transactions, which are not daily. At our shop, maybe we do 1 or 2 a year that we have to get, that I actually had to use my VSP ID for. So when you look at that, what happens is if you're not doing that work on a regular basis, you're never going to get good at it, right? You'll never get expertise. So every single time you kind of lose your butt on it financially because they're not totally intuitive processes. They're not intended to be. You're supposed to have to kind of stand on one foot and rub your belly and your head at the same time so that, just anybody can't steal a car. As that has evolved, there's getting to be more and more operations within vehicles that automakers think they want to put a fence around. They want accountability from the technician that if I'm letting you into my bus and making it wide open where it could be hacked or bad things could happen to the car afterwards, I want to know whose phone number I call if something goes bad. And so as we were looking at this, I said, well, here's the thing. How do we leverage that 750 across the entire country? And so what we presented to automakers and they approved was, let's build a program that will allow them to access that vehicle over the internet, which has been an absolute no-no up to this point. Let's put the right cybersecurity features in place. And then when a vehicle has to be reprogrammed because it got a new computer or module, then it requires a security operation. The technician on the other end can do the security operation. And then there will be somebody in the shop that's more lightly vetted. We call them the security technician, but they'll be lightly vetted, and they're the one in charge of collecting the information from the customer to verify that the customer owns the car and all of those good things that VSPs usually do on site. And then that person will be able to work with one of our VSPs who has special credentials and licenses with automakers to do that job. So the feedback has been, this is the coolest thing since sliced bread, and oh my God, you're going to put us out of business. And the reality is that it's just a stopgap as more and more technicians become IT capable, because it's a reality we're all going to have to live with. But we're a generation away from that, in my opinion.
Where is this you're going to put me out of business? What part of all of this are they relating that to?
Well, because the remote companies have the ability now to complete some operations that they couldn't complete before without being at the car, I think that their capabilities seem pretty intimidating because they've got phone rooms, they've got technicians who specialize in brands, and effectively there's a lot of them. they would potentially take business away from the guy who drives around in a van and
the mobile guys. Got it.
But our goal was actually to enable the mobile guys as well to do this, because we've got some guys in the mobile business that are absolute experts at some brands. Well, how do I get that guy to be able to service a car in Cody, Wyoming, if he happens to live in one of the New England states? And he's the expert. Well, how do we facilitate that? He can't fly out there. I mean, these are not operations that are worth that kind of money. So how can we make it so that that guy would be able to legally and securely connect to those vehicles, finish that operation for that repair shop in Cody, Wyoming, and the thing's done? And the reason I bring that up is that city itself has got a lot of high-end vehicles in it and only a handful of repair shops.
Hey, Carm here, and coming up, understand the work that NASTF is doing to collaborate with the OEs so our aftermarket technicians have a seat at the table. Hey, it's Carm here. Today, I have a special message for Napa Auto Care Centers who are looking to take the next step in growing their business and partnership. Now, if you're ready to strive and take it to the next level, Napa invites you to consider Gold Certification. Gold Certification is a premier tier of Napa Auto Care that recognizes repair shops with a higher level of participation in the Auto Care program. The program was built by Auto Care Centers for Auto Care Centers to provide a consistent consumer experience, maximize technology leverage, and reward Napa's most committed partners. When consumers visit a Gold Certified Auto Care Center, whether it's a small facility in a rural community or a multi-bay shop in a large metropolitan area, they can expect a first-class service repair experience. This includes a well-trained staff using today's technology and quality Napa parts in a comfortable, up-to-date facility. Customers at Gold Certified shops will also enjoy an extended parts and labor warranty, valuable saving opportunities, along with access to credit to pay for needed repairs, and a whole lot more. Here's what you need to qualify for the program. First, you need to be an active auto care partner for at least 12 months and have a steady business presence in your market for at least 2 years. Then, to become Gold Certified, it's necessary to meet specific requirements, chosen because they create the most consistent consumer experience and proven to generate the most significant results for auto care centers across the country. Some of these include using digital vehicle inspection, having at least one ASE Master Certified technician, a co-branded exterior, and offer consumer financing through Napa Easy Pay. You must also be an active member of a business development group. Once your shop achieves Gold Certification, you'll receive a number of benefits, including priority placement on Napa's shop locator pages, an allowance for marketing funds, 3636 peace of mind and local labor coverage, access to auto tech training, Napa Track's shop management system, Smart Sign digital menu board, and more. Talk with your servicing Napa store to find out everything you need to know about becoming a Gold Certified shop. Is it the remote programmers that are saying you're going to put me out of business, or is it the mobile guys saying you're going to put me out of business?
It's the mobile guys. And there really aren't that many. But now that they're getting a better handle on it, see, I think the main reason they're concerned is because we're piloting this with 2 remote companies and 1 mobile. The mobile is in Canada. And I think their concern is, well, these guys are going to get a head start. But in the pilot program, the remote guys are just using their own customers. You know, we've been doing it now for several weeks. Actually, we haven't even done a transaction yet. We're starting on those today, which is April 30th, and we announced it last month. But they're only working with their own customers. You're not seeing us market it anywhere. This is a soft launch, quiet. I need to learn what kinds of things are going to be cyber risks, what kinds of flow problems we have with the software. And these companies that we're working with agreed to let us basically interfere with their processes and waste their time, which isn't, but for them to show us what their challenges are. And that's really what they brought to the table. Was they also could give us reporting that will be really helpful in determining how long does it take to do one of these things. You know, how do we stage them? How do we take people on and offline? There's just a lot of considerations. And I didn't want to do that with 50 people. I wanted to do it with 3.
It seems to me that the mobile diagnostician may find a branch of a model where he maybe doesn't necessarily have to do remote programming to another city from his vehicle, but he could set up shop inside of his headquarters to do remote diagnosing, not from his van, but from an office.
That was my original idea, was to figure out how to, I get to talk to these guys at trade shows and they're amazing. The workarounds they figure out and the way they solve problems and all that. How can we leverage them? Because their model is challenged by traffic and time. The automotive industry, we trade time for dollars. We have one thing, we have time and our skill takes time. So the idea is, how can I take some of that time and put it back into their bucket? And if I can facilitate a way that, okay, I was out at a collision shop, I helped diagnose a problem, the part isn't here yet, but when the part comes in, instead of having to drive back to that shop, I can get their security technician on the phone and say, okay, let's get this job done. And off they go. So to me, it's a win-win. I think some of the people that are complaining are already doing this. They realize that the licensing issues that they're basically breaking copyright laws doing, they're going to be obvious now. There's going to be a light shining on them. And automakers haven't been really going after the onesie-twosies. They've been going after the larger companies and saying, we don't like the way you're using our license. And so that is also a major undertaking that NASTF is working on with automakers, is let's create licenses that work for these models, because you agreed that it would be a good idea to do it. Now let's make it so that they're not violating the license agreement by doing something you agreed to. But you've got multiple silos you've got to bring to the table to get these things done.
It just sounds like it was going to either happen by pulling it through or pushing it through.
Basically, what I told the automakers is it's already happening. And unless we put a fence around it, there's going to be data leaving this country in places you don't want it to go. We've got proof off of some of the systems that are out there right now. They're phoning home. That data and that information is not staying on the car, and it's scary how much of it they're scraping off of these cars. So unfortunately, it didn't seem to me, with my cyber bent that I have, that it was wise to have that happen, when at the same time we could build an accountability and put this all inside of a North American fence, and we could say, and here's all these other things you can do to make money.
If you weren't going to do it, the government was probably going to have to step in, because the OEs were probably going to put them in a half Nelson.
I think the biggest thing is with what's going on with right to repair, and I'm not proposing that we're solving that problem with this, but right to repair was supposed to make it so that everybody had access, that everybody could repair a car. And unfortunately, what's happened is certain skills and cost of entry to do some very limited operations have outrun the industry. And that's going to be that way for a little while. It's a reality. I'm not saying that there's technicians out there that are no good and shouldn't work on cars by any stretch of the imagination. What I'm saying is, how do you rationalize spending as much as $8,500 on a scan tool to do an operation you're only going to do maybe once a year, and then that subscription is just burning down, sitting there on the shelf? And then when you do it, it's going to need a software update. And then you got to figure out how to do the connectivity, and you've got to figure out how to keep your internet secure, when we've got guys already out there doing it. And if you look at that and you break that down to, okay, one time cost me $8,500 plus the labor time I lost, plus the laptop, plus. And let's say these guys charge a couple $100. I don't know what they're going to charge, and it's not ours to decide. But let's say they charge a couple $100. Does that not look like the better deal? I mean, it's no-brainer math is what it is. And at the same time, we take that expertise that's out there and reward it better.
If you charge the customer the couple $100 plus a profit on top of it, you have money to be made, not an investment you're looking for a return on.
That's the idea. We've got so many techs who've made that investment, and they know how to use the equipment. And really what needed to happen was the cybersecurity pieces, the rules needed to be nailed down. And we're working on that collaboratively with multiple organizations, tool companies. ETI is participating in that. We'll be talking about it at their Tool Tech event later in May. We're not trying to set those. We're just saying, look, you guys are the experts. Come back to us and tell us what we should ask for. And if we need to have a discussion with automakers about what that looks like, because several of them are participating in this whole security piece too, then let's figure out where that sweet spot lies. Because Carm, down the road, there's going to be a need for a technician who has access to information that currently is being fought over out there. When they have access to that, somebody's going to have to be able to identify who that technician is and verify them. Well, we're already there, and that's why we built all of these programs. SDRM was never envisioned to be doing what it's doing now, and so we're trying to be very careful and build the programs as we can, but unfortunately, there's no way to build one program that makes all 11,000 NASTF members happy at one time.
The right to repair and, the OE's lost in mass and then now they're fighting it again. Is this a way to calm them down?
Well, I think what it is it's a way for them to have an outlet for what ultimately is going to happen. Because I think what they're doing is they're trying to negotiate a few items that they see as their livelihood out of that. And I'm being really general because I don't know all the details, but I do know what I hear from automakers. They have no issue supporting auto repair. Nobody has come to me and said, we're not doing that. In fact, I've got some things happening right now for the auto repair side with automakers that I think some people will be shocked when they release. So I really see the automakers doing their best to do the right thing for the repair side. Where the food fight seems to be is over that marketing side of it. Who's going to sell this and who's going to make money on it and who's got access to it and who's got the ultimate responsibility if something gets out there. And if a customer says, I don't want my information out there, who's responsible for turning it off? So I think that war that's not NASTF's. We just want to help people who repair cars do their job faster.
It goes back to who owns the data. And if the OE said, yes, we will let you guys in, they're going to want to make sure that the people they're letting in have been vetted somehow.
Yeah, they're very concerned about the liabilities, and they should be. That's their responsibility.
It's a 60-mile-an-hour bullet going down the road with all the new tech that's coming on. How could we not trust someone who has insurance, that has the capabilities to go in there and do the right thing?
Yeah, and we're not even vetting their skills at this point. I mean, the person who cuts your hair has to demonstrate that they can do it right, and that grows back. We're just simply saying, if you're a technician who's going to work on this car, we don't have any licensing in this country. And Canada does, but we've got VSPs in Canada as well. But what you're saying is, I am willing to be held accountable to my skill set. I am willing to be held accountable to the responsibilities of making sure that my tools are secure. I mean, we have people breaking into shops specifically to steal tools because some of those tools, once you've got them in your hands, you can steal cars.
You had mentioned lightly vetted a little bit ago. What's that about?
The security technician, that lightly vetted technician, we are asking for proof of employment, that you work in the business that you say you work in, the federal employer ID number for that business, and we're asking for driver's license. Those three items allow us the ability to very quickly determine, using the techniques we've developed, because our background check is not like anything else out there. It's not an employment check. We don't care where you worked. We care where you work now. And we're able to very quickly determine if that person has got a felony, we're not going to be able to let them in the program. But we can go back to the shop owner and say, pick somebody else. We're not saying your shop can't work. We're just saying that guy has a felony. And part of our program is, if you've got a felony, particularly if it's car theft related, you can't be in the program.
Who came up with that?
Well, it was actually in the original design of the program. That team was made up of associations, locksmiths, repairers, and they determined that the felony was the problem. Now, with that said, it's a felony in some states to go more than 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. We do not apply that because we've had that happen. We've had somebody who had a speeding ticket that was a felony in their state. They're through the program. They're a VSP.
Awful lot of personal stuff being churned up here.
Well, you know what's interesting is this is all publicly available. We do not do anything. We do not even do what employment companies do. We don't have a social security number. This is all open source information that we find, and it's readily available.
So someone is making a decision somewhere along the line that said this felony is egregious or not.
If it is, it's more of this. We've actually got a team, an appeals team that makes those final decisions for us. But our registry manager, who was in law enforcement for 30 years, is looking at these with one thing in mind. Is this person's judgment trustworthy? Now, if you had a felony, we had a situation here not too long ago where we had who had a pretty egregious felony, but it was 27 years ago. And there's absolutely nothing but clean on the record after that. We took that to the appeals team and said, what do you think? And they said, approve it. But that decision is not made in a vacuum. It's not made by a single individual. However, the individual who is responsible for that has more qualifications than most lawyers do. So he'll come to us and say, I really don't think this one should be one we count. Or he'll say, this one has demonstrated throughout his career that he can't be trusted.
11,000 members you just mentioned. How many of them do you expect to get on the Vehicle Security Professional, the VSP program, right?
Well, right now, about half of our members are VSPs.
Oh, but I mean the assisted immobilizer reprogramming, right? Isn't that the one that is now this next level?
That's the new program. And the new program, I don't know. We have about 60 shops that have been vetted. These are all customers of the pilot company right now. I don't know the exact number, but I think that as more and more gateway requirements are out there for reprogramming, that need will go up. And so I don't have a number yet. Unfortunately, we had to build this saying, well, if you're going to keep bringing out operations that do this, we need to bring out a program that supports it. And, when we built the registry, we never had any idea really what that number was. But where we've landed is it seems like it always hovers around 5,000 to 6,000 people in the United States. I don't hear that people can't get their cars fixed. So we must have adequate coverage. And if you look at the map of all of our VSP members, the coverage is good. We're in every state. We're in every major market. So I think that we'll just have to see how it goes. I do expect there will probably be more than there are VSPs because there are a lot more shops. If we just use that, swag 250,000, repair shops in the country, and we start looking at more of those operations, this will allow some shops to not turn away work. This will allow many shops to not have to drag a car to a dealership to finish a repair. And we have dealers who say, boy, it would be really nice if you guys could figure out how to get these serviced on your own because we don't have time for them because we're already backed up 2 weeks and you guys need them yesterday. And it creates stress in our environment.
Donny, how closely are the OEs hovering over watching what you're doing?
They're not really hovering. I communicate well with them and I go to them one by one as necessary. So we have regular meetings with our automaker partners, the contacts that we work with at automakers, their compliance officers and that sort of thing. They participate in our general meetings. They're on our calls. When we have our calls, I have said many times that if a technician wants to talk to automakers, our NASTF calls are where that happens. I will routinely have 30 people from automakers on a call and one technician. And that, to me, is crazy. Here's your opportunity when we go to new business to say, hey, I'd like to talk about this. We're having a challenge with this. Could you make, Mr. Automaker, could you make this available to us? Right now, it's me going to them and saying, hey, it'd be really cool if our guys could do this. And they're like, well, are you sure? I mean, I know you used to work in a shop, but are you sure?
Well, out of your 11,000 members, there's a whole bunch of technicians. And so the call to action is those 11,000 members must get an email about those calls.
We send them out. They're posted on our website. They can adjust those interests on our new NASTF website and say, I'm interested in your service technology team or your vehicle security professional. We've got 5 different teams they can be involved with, and then we will push them out notifications of those. And, put your headphones on while you're at work and say, hey, boss, I'm going to listen to a NASTF call.
So how's the licensing look like? I guess what I'd like to know is if I get vetted and I'm approved, do I get a number? And how does that allow me to do the things that the assistant immobilizer reprogramming gets me? I mean, give me an idea. Walk me through this.
Okay, so I'll give you 2 answers for the security technician and the AIR program. When you are in that program, you simply log into your regular NASTF member account and you request a session. So the reason we do it that way is because the customer authorization form is something that the VSPs do all the time, and they know how to fill them out. But somebody who's only doing them once in a while, it may not be obvious to them. We tried to make it intuitive, so we made it a basically directed thing. Give us the VIN number, provide the information that is part of your responsibility, and then request the remote provider that you want to work with. And then we send a message to them saying, hey, your customer wants to do this with you, and we've approved that individual's vetted, so go for it. So they don't really have a number. They don't need one. The other side of that coin is our vehicle security professionals. They do have their own identifier number that they use. And when they log on to an automaker website to get a key code or an immobilizer code, they enter that, and then they've got an application we run on the phone that generates passcodes. And they enter that passcode because the passcodes are only good for about 20 seconds. And then the automaker's website and our website talk to each other, authenticate the transaction, and off they go. So it's all behind the scenes and invisible.
This has kicked off your, if you will, beta testing most of this, but yet the industry's had a lot of reaction that this is either a good thing on one side or a bad thing on the other. What do you say about the people that are naysaying this?
Well, I say hang out and see what we're doing. The reason I took this job was because technicians are important to me. And I just don't think that there are a lot of outlets for their concerns to make it to automakers except for NASTF. So I do not build programs that undermine technicians. I build programs that lift technicians. And that's the idea behind this. Yes, I recognize we're piloting with what you consider the enemy, but quite frankly, they've gone through the torture of getting all the insurance things in place because insurance companies didn't even have qualifications for this. They've gone through all the licensing problems. In fact, we had one that went to an automaker and said, so this is how we're doing it. We're buying a subscription for each car, for each of our customers, and they laid the whole thing out. But we think there's a problem here. Oh, that's great. Thanks for that. And they sued them the next day. So there's what being a good guy and coming to the table did for them. They had an attorney decided to make a name for himself and sued that company. So they've been through all of that, and they've spent a small fortune in both talking to attorneys, bringing attorneys to the table, and defending their programs. So at the end of the day, they were the logical source, and they had cybersecure technology already in place. And they're actually helping me to develop it for the rest of the industry. So, I mean, they have been nothing but good stewards to the industry. I know they're your competitors, but they are industry people. I mean, they're ETI board members. They're CIC board members. iCar is supporting this and helping us with it. Snap-on Tools is helping us and supporting it. Matco Tools is supporting it. So if it was such a terrible idea, do you think all of those players would have come to the table?
Okay, man. I so appreciate this. I learned a ton myself. I hope the people in the industry are glad that you've had a chance to speak to them about this. Donny, any final words?
No, I appreciate all of the input that we get. There may be something we haven't thought of. So if you've got ideas, please send them to us. You've got diagnostic network platform for NASTF. You can post things there. You can send them through support, email. I'll get them. I can't talk to everybody individually because there's just not enough hours in the day, but I want to hear your ideas about what we can do as you see more about it and you see this program roll out. What can we do with it that would be advantageous to you? So that's really my ask, and show up for our meetings.
Donny Seyfer, Executive Officer, National Automotive Service Task Force, NASTF. Thanks for the update, my friend.
My pleasure. Thank you, Carm.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive aftermarket podcast. Until next time.